Hello and good evening. You're watching Vantage with me, Kushin Galan. India and the European Union have sealed two major agreements today. One is economic, the other strategic. A landmark free trade deal has been finalized alongside a defence and security partnership. This marks the start of a new phase in India-EU relations. The trade deal will open new markets and defence will build trust and coordination. This is happening at a time when global supply chains are being rerouted and alliances are being rebuilt. India and Europe are moving closer. We will bring you all the highlights. Also on the show, why Germany wants to ban part-time work, how tensions between US and Iran are ramping up again, why Trump has raised tariffs on South Korea, and why France wants to ditch American video calling apps like Teams and Zoom. First, as always, the headlines. North Korea fires suspected ballistic missiles towards the Sea of Japan. This comes a day after a visiting US official hailed South Korea as Washington's model ally. The test is Pyongyang's second of the month. In recent years, North Korea has significantly increased its missile testing, challenging both Washington and Seoul. French President Emmanuel Macron will meet the leaders of Denmark and Greenland in Paris tomorrow. The meeting comes days after Donald Trump backed down from his threat to seize the mineral-rich Arctic island. France has positioned itself at the forefront of the European solidarity. Next month, Paris is planning to open a consulate in Greenland's capital. China vows to support Cuba amid threats from the US. Tensions have intensified this month, with Donald Trump warning that Cuba is ready to fall. Beijing and Havana are longtime socialist allies. China has consistently opposed Washington's economic blockade on the island. Slovakia and Hungary will sue the European Union over its decision to phase out Russian natural gas imports. Both are landlocked European countries with close ties to Moscow. They remain heavily reliant on Russian fossil fuels even amid the Ukraine war. Nigeria's military will try several officers over an alleged plan to oust President Bola Tinubu last year. In October 16, military officers were arrested. No date has been given for the trials. The officers could face death penalty if found guilty.
We did it. We delivered the mother of all deals. Two giants who choose partnership in a true win-win fashion.
It is now official. India and the European Union have announced a trade deal. And we can say that the agreement matches the hype. Remember, it was billed as the mother of all deals. European leaders promised the deal yesterday, and today Prime Minister Modi made it official. Here is what he said just before the leaders sat down for talks.
कल ही भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच एक बहुत बड़ा एग्रीमेंट हुआ है। दुनिया में लोग इसकी चर्चा मदर ऑफ ऑल डील्स के रूप में कर रहे हैं। ये समझौता भारत के 140 करोड़ लोगों और यूरोपीय देशों के करोड़ों लोगों के लिए बहुत बड़े अवसर लेकर आया है।
The Indian Prime Minister gave the statement just before the India-EU summit. It's the 16th summit of India and the European Union. Europe's top leaders were present: European Council President Antonio Costa and the President of European Commission Ursula von der Leyen. Yesterday, they were chief guests at India's Republic Day celebrations. Today, they got down to business. The summit began with a show of unity, with the three leaders delivering a powerful photo op.
Give your hand.
Yes.
Special okay.
Thank you.
Famous handshake
Yes.
that
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
also very good one.
Today, not only this, you have been.
The meeting lasted almost 2 hours. After that, the three leaders held a press conference and announced the trade deal. Prime Minister Modi called it the biggest ever trade deal in India's history.
फ्रेंड्स, आज भारत ने अपने इतिहास का अब तक का सबसे बड़ा फ्री ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट संपन्न किया है। यह एफटीए भारत और यूरोपियन यूनियन के बीच इन्वेस्टमेंट को बूस्ट करेगा, नई इनोवेशन पार्टनरशिप बनाएगा और वैश्विक स्तर पर सप्लाई चेन को मजबूत करेगा। यानी यह सिर्फ ट्रेड एग्रीमेंट नहीं है, यह साझा समृद्धि का नया ब्लूप्रिंट है।
Prime Minister, distinguished friend, we did it. We delivered the mother of all deals. We are creating a market of 2 billion people. And this is the tale of two giants, the world's second and fourth largest economies. Two giants who choose partnership in a true win-win fashion.
So what exactly is in this deal? And why does it matter to both sides? Let's discuss what each side is getting out of this agreement, starting with India. India has secured key concessions in several sectors. The biggest highlight is automobiles. We told you about this yesterday. European cars will be cheaper in India. The likes of BMW, Mercedes-Benz, Volkswagen, Renault and Audi, all these brands will be able to sell more cars in India because New Delhi is giving them a major tax break. Import duties on cars will be dropped significantly. Right now, the rate is as high as 110%. This will be brought down to 40% and finally 10%. But there is a quota. Only 250,000 vehicles will qualify for this reduced rate in the year. And this will apply to cars that cost more than 15,000 euros. That's around $17,800 or almost 17 lakh rupees. Only those cars will get a tariff relief. Cars that are cheaper than 17 lakh rupees will be excluded from this deal. This protects Indian manufacturers while still opening doors to European car makers. So it's a win-win for all sides. The next set of winners are manufacturers from a wide range of sectors like marine products, chemicals, plastics and rubber, leather and footwear, textiles, apparel, base metal and pharmaceuticals. Companies from all of these sectors will be charged either no tariff or reduced rates when they export to the EU. Brussels is bringing down its trade barriers significantly here. India's Commerce Ministry put out a press release. It says, and I quote, India has secured unprecedented market access for more than 99% of Indian exports by trade value. That's a big win for the Indian side. What about the EU? What does it gain from the agreement? A lot of things. For starters, the tariff concessions. More than 96% of exports from the EU will get tariff relief. 96.6% of all products. And which sectors will benefit from this? We have already discussed the car manufacturers. India will slash duties on European alcohol, like wines. Today they are taxed at 150%. India will cut this to 75%. Eventually, the tariff will come down to 20%. The tariffs on spirits will come down as well. The new rate is 40%. A wide range of European goods will get relief, including machinery, electrical equipment, chemicals, and iron and steel. Almost all of these products will be taxed at 0%. European olive oil, too, will face no duties as well. Next, we have processed food. Stuff like European bread, pastries, biscuits, pasta, chocolates, and pet food. On these items too, the tariff will be zero. Duties on meat products will be reduced. This includes products like sausages and other meat preparations. Today they are taxed at 110%. Under the trade deal, this will fall to 50%. Europe is counting on this trade deal to give their economies a boost. The EU expects its exports to India to double by 2032. Today, it's worth around 120 billion euros. That is almost $140 billion. This agreement could easily push these numbers up. It will come into effect next year once the deal has been ratified by the members of the European Union. But beyond trade, this trade deal delivers another message. It marks the beginning of a realignment. With this deal, Brussels and New Delhi, they are delivering a statement of unity. In fact, one of the top European leaders, he has a direct connection with India. We are talking about Antonio Costa, the European Council President. He surprised his audience at the press conference today. During the announcement, he pulled out his Overseas Citizen of India card and spoke about his personal connection to India. Costa's father was born and raised in Goa. He moved to Portugal at the age of 18. It was a rare personal moment.
Thank you, sir. I'm the president of the European Council, but I'm also an overseas Indian citizen. Then, as you can imagine, for me, it has a special meaning.
Costa delivered a message of unity at a time when trade is being weaponized through tariffs. Yes, we are talking about Trump's trade war. This trade deal is designed to counter the rising tariffs. That's one of its main goals. Trump has imposed harsh tariffs on India, a whopping 50%, the highest in the world. Europe's biggest economies remain at odds with Trump too. Last week, they narrowly escaped an additional 10% tariffs. This was over the issue of Greenland. In fact, before today's announcement, US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent weighed in. He almost claimed credit for this trade deal. Bessent was discussing the tariffs on India over the imports of Russian oil. He claimed they have worked. In the same breath, Bessent took a swipe at Europe. He said Brussels refused to impose these tariffs because they wanted this trade deal with India. Well, the tariffs may have added pressure and pushed both sides to act quickly. But the scale of concessions on offer, they point towards a bigger reset. The European Union and India are joining hands. They are expanding their relationship on multiple fronts. Like we said yesterday, this trade agreement is only one piece of a wider package. Their next frontier is defense.
The document to be signed is the India-EU Security and Defence Partnership.
The signing of the Security and Defence Partnership is extremely a milestone, and we can build on that.
Defense is the second key pillar of the new India-EU partnership. The trade deal is getting most of the attention. But the announcements on the defense front are just as significant. Today, India and the EU signed another agreement, a defense and security pact. This pact marks a serious shift. It defines how the two sides engage and respond on strategic and security issues. This pact are two broad components. The first is military interoperability. The deal spells out a list of areas, domains, where India and the EU want closer cooperation. This includes maritime security, counter-terrorism, and cyber defense.
We will deepen our cooperation on maritime security, for example, joint naval exercises to tackle piracy. And we will step up our work on countering cyber and hybrid threats, which are getting more sophisticated by the day, And our partnership includes a dedicated dialogue on space security, from situational awareness to secure connectivity, and stronger cooperation on counter-terrorism.
There is a clear focus on conducting more joint exercises, increasing the number of port visits, and improving intelligence sharing. One major priority is maritime awareness. The pact says, and I quote, "The EU and India will enhance operational cooperation for maritime security, including joint exercises and port calls, and the exchange of information for maritime domain awareness." Here is what this means. Both India and the EU will keep an eye at the seas. This could be aimed at China. New Delhi has its own issues with the Chinese Navy, the frequent visits by research vessels to the region, and the growing naval deployments. Brussels shares these concerns. It has spoken out against Chinese naval activities, specifically in the South China Sea. From sweeping territorial claims to military provocations, China has been asserting itself in those waters. This pact is aimed at countering such challenges, especially when trade between India and the EU is expanding. The need to secure sea lanes becomes urgent. This is where interoperability matters. The second priority is the defense industry. Prime Minister Modi spoke about this today. He said India and the EU, they will work on co-development as well as co-production of defense equipment.
इंडो पैसिफिक क्षेत्र में हमारे सहयोग का दायरा और बढ़ेगा और इसके साथ हमारी डिफेंस कंपनियां को डेवलपमेंट और को प्रोडक्शन के नए अवसर साकार करेगी.
That means the partnership. It will not be limited to buying and selling of weapons. Both sides want to develop and produce weapons together. This is significant because it opens the doors for Indian companies. They can enter Europe's defense supply chains and participate in key initiatives like the SAFE program. SAFE stands for Security Action for Europe. This is a €150 billion fund. It is a major push to build up Europe's own defense industries and boost manufacturing of weapons within the bloc. New Delhi is positioning itself to join this initiative. Earlier today, there was a key meeting. India's Defence Minister Rajnath Singh met Kaja Kallas, the foreign policy chief of the EU. The leaders discussed defence cooperation and the role India can play there. New Delhi offered to help Europe in diversifying its defence supplies. This is going to help both sides. For Europe, defence is a key vulnerability. We have talked about this often. Europe still depends heavily on the US for weapons. In fact, NATO's European members, 64% of their arms imports, they come exclusively from the United States. The war in Ukraine exposed this dependency. It forced Brussels to rethink its strategy. And now, their recent tensions with Donald Trump, they have compelled Brussels to expedite their investments. And this is where India can play a role. Through co-production, India can learn advanced defense know-how. It can use this to strengthen its own industry, as well as it can position itself as a reliable supplier to Europe, a bloc that is actively looking for alternatives. So for Europe, this is about reducing dependence on the US. For India, it is about building capacities and finding new and reliable partners on the world stage. It was trade that started the conversation, but defense is giving this relationship more depth. Now let's shift our attention to Germany. An intense debate is underway in Berlin. It is about how much should employees work and who gets to decide that. The ruling CDU has put up a proposal. It wants to end the legal right to part-time work. Under the proposed plan, working fewer hours would require special permissions. The supporters of this plan say it is a necessity since the country is short of skilled labor and Germany cannot afford part-time work as a lifestyle. But critics have slammed the idea. They say this would hit women and caregivers the hardest. Here's a report.
A fierce debate is unfolding in Germany, and it is not about wages or pensions, but about time. More specifically, the legal right to work part-time. For years, part-time work has been protected under German law. Every worker had the option to reduce hours without needing approval. That may soon change, because Germany's leading ruling party wants to take that right away. The Christian Democratic Union's business wing is now pushing for a ban. They call it lifestyle part-time work. Under the proposal, anyone wanting to work fewer hours would need special permission. Only caregivers, parents, and those in training would be exempt. The argument is economic. Germany is short on skilled workers. Growth is slowing, and the CDU says the country cannot afford a workforce that voluntarily cuts back on hours. Gitta Konneman, head of the CDU's business wing, was blunt. "Those who can work more should work more," she said. She wants the party to formally adopt this position next month, making it official policy. And she is not alone. Chancellor Friedrich Merz has already criticized Germany's work culture. He dismissed ideas like a 4-day week and questioned how easily people can call in sick. But the backlash has started. Even within the CDU, the party's social wing has pushed back. Dennis Radke, one of its key voices, said the move sends the wrong message. He called it a case of putting the cart before the horse. Radke argued that part-time work is often a trap, not a lifestyle choice. He said many workers would gladly go full-time if employers were more flexible, and if childcare and elder care were better. Without those conditions, he said, restricting part-time work is unfair. Germany's powerful metalworkers union agrees. They say the issue is not performance, but poor working conditions, and a lack of support for those balancing work with care duties. The numbers reveal the scale of the shift. Part-time employment in Germany rose to over 40% in late 2025. That is nearly double the rate in the UK, and more than twice that of France. Of those working part-time, over 75% are women. That is not just a gender gap, it is an economic one. Last year, the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development had warned Germany that its economy was suffering because women and older workers are not fully integrated into the labor market. So what happens next? The CDU motion is expected to pass at its party conference. That will turn it into official policy. But legal changes will take longer and face pushback. At the heart of this debate is a bigger question. Should governments decide who gets to work less, or should people decide for themselves? Germany's economy may need more hours, but its workers may not have more to give. And this clash between rights and recovery is far from over.
Saturday is going to be a big day.
We are almost a month into the new year, and yet one question refuses to go away. Will the United States attack Iran? Because right now, something big is happening around Iran. A so-called big armada is moving in. And no, that's not our description. Those are Donald Trump's words, a big armada.
You know, we have a lot of ships going that direction, just in case. We have a big flotilla going in that direction. And we'll see what happens. The big war force. We have a big force going toward Iran. I'd rather not see anything happen, but we're watching them very closely. But we have an armada. We have a massive fleet heading in that direction, and maybe we won't have to use it. We'll see.
At the heart of this show of force is this ship, the USS Abraham Lincoln. The US Navy's 5th Nimitz-class aircraft carrier, one of the largest warships on the planet. Nuclear-powered, bristling with firepower, built to project American power. And according to reports, it has now reached West Asia. And here's why it matters. Just 3 weeks ago, it was thousands of kilometers away. The USS Abraham Lincoln was in the South China Sea. Then, the protests in Iran escalated. There were mass killings. So Washington responded with military deployment. That includes the USS Abraham Lincoln. But it is not alone. It is part of a US Navy carrier strike group. So what's present in that? There are 3 guided missile destroyers, squadrons of F-35 fighter jets, FA-18 Super Hornets, radar jamming aircraft, and helicopters for anti-submarine warfare. So it has a lot of firepower. Washington has also moved jets to the region. They are present in bases in Jordan. There are also cargo planes nearby. Beyond that, the US already has military bases in West Asia. There are around 19 of them. 8 of these are permanent. 40 to 50,000 US troops are stationed there. So a lot of firepower and a strong military presence. Washington is sending a clear signal to Iran. But will they attack soon? Trump says not yet. Yesterday, he gave an interview to a US news outlet. He says Iran wants to talk.
We have a big armada next to Iran, bigger than Venezuela. They want to make a deal. I know so. They called on numerous occasions. They want to talk.
And how is Tehran taking this? Well, not too well. Iran has now fired back not with missiles but with a message. On Sunday, Tehran's municipality unveiled a massive billboard. It is right at Enqilab Square. That's the heart of Iran's capital. The image is impossible to miss. A bird's eye view of an aircraft carrier. Destroyed fighter jets scattered across its deck. And in the water below, there's blood. It is spreading out to form the American flag. The message could not be clearer. It's printed in both Farsi and English. The warning reads, if you sow the wind, you will reap the whirlwind. So clearly, Tehran is warning US.
The Islamic Republic of Iran is confident in its own capabilities and also bears in mind past experiences, including the heroic confrontation of June. More capable than ever, it will respond to any act of aggression with a comprehensive and regret-inducing response.
Any attack would be met with a regret-inducing response. Those are Iran's words. And it's not just Tehran. Iran has militias all across West Asia. They too have responded to Trump's threat. Take the Houthis, for example. They have released a video of a burning ship. The caption was just 2 words. It said, coming soon. But is an US attack imminent? No one can say right now. Last time, reports suggested Trump was just minutes away from ordering an attack. But then he pulled back at the last minute. Why? He had received assurances from Iran. They had stopped killing protesters. So Trump dialed back. Will this time be any different? No one knows but Trump. But West Asia is on the edge. There have been multiple flight cancellations. Air France, Indigo, Lux Air. They have all cancelled or postponed flights. So where does that leave us? What we are seeing may not be a countdown to war, but a high-stakes game of pressure. Washington is showing its muscle. Tehran is showing it won't be intimidated. Donald Trump says Iran wants a deal. Iran says any attack will be answered. And between these 2 claims lies a region already on edge. For now, no missiles are flying, but in West Asia, when forces mass this close, anything can be triggered. We'll be tracking this story closely for you. Social media is back in the spotlight today, not because of a trend or a viral video, but over who should be allowed on these platforms at all. I am talking about apps like Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok. For years, children have been scrolling these apps daily, chatting with friends, watching videos, and consuming content online. But governments worldwide are now asking a simple question. Should kids even be there on these platforms at all? Because the costs are becoming impossible to ignore. Cyberbullying, social media addiction, and mental health issues are all rising. So countries are stepping in and taking action. Some have already banned social media for children. Others are close to making a decision. Our next report explains more.
For years, the idea sounded radical. Banning children from social media felt like an overreach. Impossible to enforce, maybe even pointless. But that conversation has shifted quietly and decisively. What once seemed like a fringe proposal is now being debated seriously across the world. It began with Australia.
Government's proposed age is 16.
Last December, Canberra did what no other government had dared to do before. It blocked anyone under 16 from accessing social media platforms. Within weeks, millions of teenagers' accounts were deactivated. The world took notice. Now France has followed. This week, French lawmakers voted to bar children under 15 from social media. The bill swept through the National Assembly with commanding support. Because this was not about politics, it was about protecting children from bullying that happens in the dark and the habits that look like addiction. President Emmanuel Macron has placed this at the center of his agenda.
Banning social media for those under 15. That's what scientists recommend, and that's what the French people overwhelmingly demand. Because our children's brains are not for sale. Not to American platforms, nor to Chinese networks.
His words captured something many had been feeling, but few had said so plainly. That social media is engineered. It is designed to hold attention, to shape behavior, and to turn fleeting feelings into endless scrolling. The public appears to agree. Surveys show broad support for keeping younger children off these platforms. But inside the schools, where this will matter most, reactions are mixed.
We're part of a generation for whom phones are ingrained in our daily lives, so it's hard to take that away from a child.
Still, the momentum is building. Britain is now studying an Australia-style ban. Denmark and Norway are debating higher age limits. Italy already requires parental consent for younger users. China enforces strict screen time controls through device settings. The conversation has reached India too. The state of Goa is examining Australia's law. Officials there say a ban for children under 16 is being considered. Andhra Pradesh has also set up a panel to study similar restrictions. This is no longer an isolated experiment. It is becoming a global movement. And behind it all is a reality that can no longer be ignored. Social media addiction among young people is gradually increasing. In the United States, a landmark trial begins on Tuesday. A 19-year-old woman is suing major platforms. She says their algorithms were designed to keep her hooked to the platforms, and that her mental health has suffered as a result. Executives from Meta, Google, and TikTok are expected to testify. The case challenges the idea that platforms are not responsible for the harm their designs may cause. Legal experts say the outcome could reshape how social media is regulated worldwide, because this is no longer just a debate about screen time. It is about accountability, about who decides what childhood looks like in a digital age.
South Korea has once again been hit by a familiar storm, the tariffs of US President Donald Trump. Yesterday, Trump threatened to raise tariffs on South Korea. The tariffs currently stand at 15%. These are on South Korean exports to the United States. But Trump says he will push them up to 25%. This move would hit one of America's closest allies in Asia. So why is Washington pressuring Seoul? And why is Donald Trump throwing another US ally under the bus? Tonight, we will break it down for you. Let us start with what happened. Yesterday, Donald Trump posted a message on his social media platform. It is called Truth Social. There, he accused South Korea's legislature, meaning he accused their parliament, of not living up to a trade deal. The US and South Korea had signed a trade deal last year. Under that agreement, Washington had agreed to cap tariffs on South Korean goods. To put this into perspective, Trump had imposed a 25% tariff on Seoul in April 2025. Then in July, he agreed to bring it down to 15%. In return, Seoul promised massive investments in the United States. Those investments are worth $350 billion, and they were meant for strategic sectors. Sectors like shipbuilding, semiconductors, artificial intelligence, among others. But Trump says it has still not been implemented. So now he's using his favorite weapon to pressurize Seoul. Look at what he said. Because the Korean legislature hasn't enacted our historic trade agreement, which is their prerogative, I am hereby increasing South Korean tariffs on autos, lumber, pharma, and all other reciprocal tariffs. So what is holding South Korea back with the deal? The short answer is their political processes. You see, in South Korea, big trade and investment commitments need legislative approvals. They need parliamentary scrutiny and proper laws that need to be passed. That process is still underway. There are also practical concerns around the investment, particularly the impact it may have on South Korea's currency. It has weakened in recent months against the US dollar. Hence, the deal has been stuck. But Trump is not buying that. He wants the deal to materialize as soon as possible. And the stakes are high. America is one of South Korea's biggest export markets. In 2025, Seoul exported about $123 billion worth of goods to the US. Out of this, car exports accounted for $30 billion. So higher tariffs would hurt. The reaction in South Korea was immediate. Its stock markets opened lower today. Shares in some sectors like automobile fell sharply in the early trade. But later, they recovered some of their losses. On the streets, there was anger. Small protests broke out near the US Embassy in Seoul.
The United States, under a second Trump term, is really going too far. In South Korea, our laws require public consultation, bipartisan deliberation, and an assessment of whether a measure makes commercial sense.
Still, some South Koreans have expressed hope. They believe the government will negotiate and resolve the issue.
The relationship between Korea and the United States may be weakened, and trust may decline due to rising tariffs. But I think it is important for people like politicians to put effort in rebuilding the relationship.
Officially, Seoul says it has not received any formal notice from the US and that it remains committed to the trade deal. In fact, it also is sending its trade minister to Washington for talks. But here's the thing. The story is not just about South Korea. This is about how Donald Trump is using tariffs as a weapon on allies to get what he really wants. Just days ago, he threatened Canada with 100% tariffs. Canada is another close US ally and a NATO member. But he still wants them with tariffs. Why? Because Canada proposed a trade deal with China. Canada is a major trading partner of the US. Trump does not want Beijing to increase its influence in its neighborhood. Earlier this month, he also threatened tariffs on European allies. This was over Greenland. Trump wants to acquire the Arctic island, but he eventually backed down from those threats. And that is the pattern we are seeing here. Donald Trump is using tariffs like a hammer. not to fix trade imbalances with countries, but to force compliance with what he wants. The message to his allies is clear: fall in line or pay the price. And South Korea is just the latest target, but it will surely not be the last. For years, Europe talked about digital sovereignty like they go to the gym, important and necessary. But something that can be pushed to tomorrow. Then came Donald Trump. He returned to the White House and suddenly tomorrow became right now. Why? Because Europe realized something deeply uncomfortable. Its economy, its governments, its data, its daily functioning, all of it runs on foreign technology, mostly American and some Chinese. And in a bad day, that dependence can turn into leverage. Or worse, a switch someone else controls. Take France, for example. They are building something called the Digital Sovereignty Observatory. On paper, it sounds like another boring government body, but it has a very important task. It maps where the French government and businesses use non-European tech, basically where they are not dependent on US big tech. Alongside that, France is pushing for a digital resilience index. What's that? It's a sort of stress test for Europe's digital spine. Like, consider a simple question. If US big tech goes down today, what will it affect? Hospitals, banks, defense systems, research labs? France is now taking notes of that. It's checking how vulnerable it is. And then there are its own apps. France is now building its own video conferencing tool. Of course, it led to jokes, another Zoom clone. Just use Microsoft Teams. But France isn't doing it for fun. They are building it for control. The app will host data inside France. Its cloud infrastructure will be run by French entities. Even the AI features like subtitles are powered by local startups and research labs. It is like as slick as Silicon Valley tools? Maybe not yet, but that's not the point. The point is this: it's not infrastructure governed by another country's laws. That's what France is aiming for. And it's not a new plan. Last year, Firstpost managing editor Palki Sharma spoke to French President Emmanuel Macron. Even then, he called for tech sovereignty.
You and Prime Minister Modi have both talked about strategic autonomy a lot in the past few years. Are you then going to push for tech sovereignty together?
You were showing these major companies earlier. Prime Minister Modi is facing the same issues. They're all American, and there's a few Chinese players in that space. And he wants to benefit from the innovation, but he wants it to also be happening in India. Sometimes, if there's non-cooperation with these players, then you need to be able to take things forward on your own. We saw it with COVID.
But this isn't just a France story, and this applies far beyond Europe. India, Australia, Africa, Latin America, every digital economy faces the same question. Who controls the rails you run on? And we all know the answer. It is the American big tech. They provide the services and they call the shots. Take India, for example. We generate mountains of data every single second. But here's the uncomfortable truth. A large part of that data is stored abroad. Our data fuels foreign AI models, foreign SaaS companies, foreign ad ecosystems. The economic value gets credited elsewhere, which is why we need tech sovereignty. We should use our data to fuel our own economic growth. And let's kill one myth here. This isn't about the next Indian WhatsApp or, say, ChatGPT. That mindset already failed once. Sovereignty isn't about replacing one dependency with another. It's about choice. India needs multiple choices so that nothing becomes a choke point. Because for years, big American tech companies operated like digital empires. Meta, Google, X, Amazon. They built the platforms, clouds, and rules. The rest of the world just rented space. That has to change. Tech sovereignty doesn't mean shutting out the world. It means building your own foundations. First, own your data. Data should live at home under your laws. Second, control your clouds. Governments, defense, hospitals, banks. They cannot run on servers you don't control. Third, break the monopoly mindset. No single platform or no single provider can call all the shots. And fourth, build local tech ecosystems. Fund startups and bank research. And finally, treat tech like strategic infrastructure, just like roads, just like railways, just like power grids. Because in the 21st century, tech sovereignty is no longer optional. It is the price of independence. Our next story is about the United States. The country is in the midst of a severe winter storm right now. Temperatures have dropped sharply and large parts of the country are struggling to cope. People are without electricity, travel is being disrupted, and at least 30 people have lost their lives. But as the storm continues, President Trump is using this storm to mock climate change. He is asking, where is global warming now? Scientists say that this is misleading and that extreme cold does not cancel a warming planet. Our next report has more.
Cars lie buried nose deep in snow. Streets fade into white silence. Snow spins through the air like ash. This is the United States this week. A powerful winter storm has swept across the country, bringing snow, sleet, rain, and ice, all falling together. Temperatures have plunged well below freezing levels. More than 190 million people under extreme cold alerts.
It's fun to see this amount of snow. It like almost apocalyptic in a nice way.
Some regions are facing the coldest conditions in decades. Power lines are sagging under the weight of thick ice. Trees are snapping and crashing onto roads. Hundreds of thousands of houses are losing electricity. Entire neighborhoods are going dark. Emergency crews are responding as fast as they can, but frozen roads are slowing them down. In some areas, help is struggling to reach those who need it the most. Travel across the country is breaking down. Flights are being cancelled in waves. Major airports are paralyzed, with passengers waiting for hours.
We don't know if we're going to make it or not, so we've been here since Sunday about 7 p.m., so we'll find out if we make it today or not.
Even highways are becoming impassable. The storm is already turning deadly. At least 30 people have died so far. Some are dying from excessive exposure to the cold. Others are losing their lives in crashes on icy roads or due to other outdoor activities. Cities are opening emergency warming shelters. Officials are urging people to stay indoors. They are warning that the worst conditions are not over yet. Behind this storm is a surge of Arctic air. It is pushing far south of where it normally stays. That freezing air is colliding with warmer, moisture-rich air over the US. The result? Heavier snowfall, thicker ice, and longer-lasting cold. But while scientists explain the mechanics, President Donald Trump is using the storm to mock climate science.
Rarely seen anything like it before. Could the environmental insurrectionists please explain whatever happened to global warming?
It's a familiar move, confusing weather with climate, a cold snap with a long-term trend, and it's dangerously misleading. Scientists have said this repeatedly. Short bursts of cold do not erase decades of warming. In fact, experts say a warming planet can fuel stronger winter storms. Warmer air holds more moisture. When temperatures suddenly drop, That moisture falls as intense snow and ice. The irony? The Arctic itself is warming faster than anywhere else on Earth. That warming may be weakening the systems that normally trap cold air in the north. When those systems stretch or fail, freezing air spills south, and millions feel the impact at once. Right now, this is exactly what is unfolding in the US. The cold is still biting. Snow and ice are still falling. Across the country, communities are bracing, not just for the next 48 hours, but for a future where storms like this may become more frequent. Because ignoring the science won't stop the ice from falling. It just makes one less prepared when it does.
It's almost Lunar New Year in China. Shops are packed, everything is red, shiny and cheerful. And in the middle of all this festive chaos, one toy is quietly stealing the spotlight. A red plush horse. A sad red plush horse. It looks almost like it is going through something. What's even more funny is that it was a factory mistake. This wasn't intentional. So why then are millions buying it? And what does it say about China's work culture? Our next report tells you.
This horse looks defeated. Its mouth droops downward. Its eyes avoid eye contact. It has a tiny gold bell around its neck. Like it's still trying to be festive, but emotionally, it's done. And this accidental little horse has now become one of China's most viral New Year symbols. So how did this happen? Apparently, and this is the best part, it was a mistake.
The crying horse came about because a worker sewed its mouth upside down by mistake. After that, my customer's customer said they wanted to return it because the mouth was upside down. At that time, I didn't say anything and didn't think much about it. I just said, then send it back to me. But later they said, no need to return it.
Somewhere in a toy workshop, a worker stitched the horse's smile upside down. Instead of fixing it, the toy went out into the world looking like it had just read an email that started with, "As per my last message." It appeared on the shelves, and soon, the internet couldn't get enough of it. Before anyone could blink, photos of the sad horse flooded Chinese social media. People weren't laughing at it. They were bonding with it. Because in that one tiny frown, they saw something painfully familiar. The feeling of being exhausted, but still showing up. The feeling of wanting to cry, but keeping it together because rent exists. The feeling of smiling on the outside while internally screaming. In China, work culture is famously intense. Commonly known as the 996 work culture. That means 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., 6 days a week. There are long hours, high expectations, and little room to admit you're struggling. So instead of writing long, emotional posts, people did something much simpler. They bought a horse. They put it next to their computers. And they captioned it, "Me when my proposal gets rejected." "Me after my boss says, small revision." "Me, but I still have 3 meetings left." Suddenly, this wasn't just a plush toy. It was a shared language.
Yes, I was really surprised. From my perspective, to be honest, I think this crying horse is ugly. I don't like it at all. Maybe it's that people my age don't like it, and young people do.
And here's what really made it spread like wildfire. It was cheap. The toy sells for around $3. Some even called it healing. And honestly, that's rare. Especially during a festival that's usually about happiness, prosperity, and moving forward at full speed. It's also funny is that the sellers didn't plan any of this. Once they realized people wanted the sad version, they stopped fixing the mistake. Instead, they started making more of it. So as China welcomes the Year of the Horse, the symbol everyone's talking about isn't charging ahead or winning races. It's sitting quietly on a desk, looking a little sad, and wearing a tiny bell. Because this $3 plush toy reminds millions one thing. Even if you're tired, even if work is overwhelming, even if you feel like crying, you are not alone in this horse race.
And now it's time for Vantage shots, images that tell the story. Russian President Vladimir Putin attends a World War II memorial to mark anniversary of the Leningrad siege breakthrough. New Yorkers make the best of a snowstorm that has blanketed the city. And Japan bids farewell to its last giant pandas as pair begin journey home to China. Finally, taking you back in history, on this day in 1945, Auschwitz was liberated. It was Nazi Germany's largest concentration camp in Poland. The Soviet troops entered the network of camps, freeing the remaining 7,000 survivors. Nearly 1.1 million Jews were killed at Auschwitz. Leaving you on that note, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow.
Those are the largest group.